All right, album review time for Memoirs and Armour by Navy Blue. I've enjoyed this project quite a bit. It's been a fun 2024 with new music. This year, I feel like I don't have any relativity. I don't really know what previous years have been like. This is really kind of my first year of diving into a lot of new projects as they come out. But this is one of those gems. Navy Blue, not a massive artist, independent artist, but this is one of those gems where I'm glad I got to sit down with it and hear it, because otherwise it just slips on by. You never really know about it. Specifically this one, Red Roses, which is track 7. That's one of my favorite songs of the year. Like, it is in contention for song of the year for me. I love Red Roses. Love Red Roses. I love the sample and the way it's structured into the song and the overall structure of that beat, really. And honestly, as I was thinking about this album, look at this. Pen on paper for notes. Wow. That was actually really nice to do that. I love putting pen on paper. I think spending time with this album, my biggest takeaway, my biggest enjoyment of it is I feel like this is kind of like a heart and soul element of hip-hop. People have mentioned from time to time, hip hop is more than just music. It's a culture. It's a movement. It's personal. It's more than just music. And so, like, on one hand, I want to be, I suppose, I don't want to say too much in terms of the culture, because I'm not immersed in the culture. I don't live in that movement, in that space. That's just, it is what it is. But when I think about hip hop, both as music and as a culture, this kind of album is what comes to mind. Just this idea, this concept of, I'm going to take samples and incorporate them into my beat as well as I can. And I'm going to take my lyrics and incorporate them into my raps as well as I can. And I'm going to make something that matters to me, that has meaning to me. And I'm going to put it out there so that it can become part of this greater collective whole known as hip hop. That's what this album is to me. And that's why I enjoy listening to it. There's a lyric, it's off of the track Low Threshold. I will breathe life into these songs because I'm allowed to pause. I love that line. I think it's an excellent line, especially coming from an artist like Navy Blue, who, from what I understand, he got dropped by Def Jam prior to this. And so, as far as I understand, he's independent at this point. Kitty, please don't claw the wall. Thank you for joining the video, Kitty. The idea that he can now pause and breathe life into his songs because he now has the time, because now he doesn't have anybody over his shoulder telling him when it's got to get done, how it's got to get done, what it's got to sound like. That lyric from Low Threshold, which is another fantastic song, to me, that is a great summary of this album. It is just an artist going through and just making these songs. And I don't even want to call this a criticism. Maybe it's a downside. Maybe it's something a little challenging to overcome. But some of the songs, some of the lyrics, man, the way they're written, there's a layer of him being esoteric. There's a layer of he's writing for himself. But what's cool about that to me is there's been some projects, and I've seen comments over the years of, Bob, you're not supposed to understand everything on that first listen, not even on the 10th listen or the 30th listen or whatever. One of the cool things about hip hop and rap and all these lyrics and all these lines is you can't catch them all, but that means every time you listen, you hear something again. You hear something new every time it pops out. And this album has that to an extent. I think part of it is closed off a little in that it seems like he is writing for himself. He is writing specific, and in some ways it's almost just stream of consciousness. It's not even like deliberate. Well, I shouldn't say deliberate. I think what's written in here is deliberate, but it's also written, deliberately obtuse, I suppose. It's poetic, and sometimes poetry can get a little confusing. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? I don't know what you're saying. But at the same time, the album maintains kind of this energy, this feeling where someone can rattle off something to you and maybe you don't necessarily understand the situation that they're talking about or what they're going through, but you get that feeling from it. And you can just go, I don't know that, but I feel you on this one. And this album does that. It just has this energy to it. And I really like it. There's a couple other lyrics I wrote down. Oh, I should touch on favorite tracks. So Red Rose is one of my favorite tracks of the year. So obviously favorite from the album. Boulder is fantastic. La Noche, I think is how you say it. The final track, that one's really good. Low Thresholds. Basses is really cool. I like basses. I like the sample of the guitar being used on that one. Slow. I also like too, because at the end, was it Life is Short, so live it slow. I just love that concept. When those lyrics come through at the end, life is short, so live it slow. Live it slow. I really like the idea of living life a little slower. Especially, it seems like these days, it's so easy to get wrapped up in everything. There's always so much to do and so much to be distracted by. So just slow it down. Life is short. Live it slow. Love those lines. Another lyric that stood out to me that I really enjoy. Money ain't make 'em, but the dollar is a motherfucker. It's a great one too. I'm not pursuing money. I'm not fixated on trying to get as much money as I can, but I still got to get paid. I still have to get by somehow. And I can only imagine as an independent artist, especially in a world where there's just so much music, it's so hard to break through. I don't want to call it the noise, but just to reach people. Nowadays it's as easy as ever to reach your audience because they're literally right there on the other side of a piece of glass. Yet now it's harder than ever for them to find you, it seems like, Another great line. This was off of Red Roses. 200,000 fleeting thoughts that I'm choosing not to tend to. I like that. I like that a lot. Just let the noise go. Let it go. Cool album, man. I don't know much about Navy Blue. It is what it is. This is where I'm at a bit of a disadvantage. But if any of you enjoyed The Patience by Mick Jenkins last year or Maps, Billy Woods, last year, both those albums really stood out to me as well. It's just excellent albums. This one, it's not really in the same sound category necessarily. It doesn't really align with those two, but just the feel and the independent artistry that exists. I definitely recommend this as a listen if you enjoyed those two albums. The Memoirs and Armour is great. And it's 10 tracks, it's 26 minutes, quick ride, fun ride, good listen. Yeah, there you go. There's my review. Good album. I'm glad I sat down with it. Especially, too, because I feel like if I hadn't had jumped on it when I got a couple messages about it, this one would have just slipped on by and I would have never knew it existed and I would have been less off because of it. All right, y'all. Take care. We'll see you soon.